Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we saw that the value Vivikta Desha Sevitvam is not necessarily for being alone all the time and staying away from everything and finding a quiet place and just sitting there. Because as Julia just said, that wherever you go, you bring yourself. So wherever, if you have not dealt with things, so Swamiji used to say that you can get fed up with life and you can go to Himalayas, but the irritated mind is still with you. Then what happens is that you are sitting nicely in meditation and the next car is passing by and you're also angry with the car because he's disturbing you with the noise that he's making. So what it means is the external world where there's some discomfort, it's external world is going to be full of things. But if you have not dealt with your own irritation, right, you carry it with you wherever you go. So Vivikta Desha Sevitvam is more of a value of resolving it, for which you need some quiet time. You need some quiet time, you need to stay with yourself, you need to self-reflection is something which is very important, and honest self-reflection and everything that is within you. So there are layers within layers within layers. They are not all going to surface. So people ask me this question that how do I even first of all, even at the relative level, know myself and know all the things that I'm carrying? Because it's countless and so many things I don't know. So one good news is you don't need to know and you don't need to say, okay, now what are all the things that are within me and let me start now cleaning up. What you have to, this is where Ishvara's order is very important. Whatever you need to deal with in life, that will come in front of you. And unless you deal with it, it will keep coming back. No matter what you try to do, no matter how you try to escape, it will just keep facing you in different ways. So that's where you have to recognize that, A, this is something that I need to deal with. I better pay attention to it and free myself from it once and for all, otherwise it will keep recurring. Now, there is a second thing, and once that is dealt with, then you may think, oh, I've freed myself. Something else that you need to take care of, it will emerge. So what happens is, you don't need to figure out, oh my God, what are all the things? Otherwise, you'll get overwhelmed. So you have to relax and let Ishvara do the job of letting whatever needs to be taken care of surface by itself. And then you go on, and this is why somebody was saying that perhaps it's a lifetime of job, but do it with fun, sense of fun, by saying, okay, now this situation gives me an opportunity to deal with this. Instead of telling yourself, oh my God, I'm stuck with this, how do I get rid of it? So this is why the one thing that when somebody asked Swamiji, how do we deal with fear? Then Swamiji said, the only way to deal with fear is welcome fear. Lose the fear of having fear. It's there. Okay, well, there is some reason why it is there. So, what does it mean? You embrace it in some ways. Stop fighting it. So then what will happen is you befriend it and then deal with it, right? Whatever you can do. So this is the value, Vivikta Desha Sevitvam. The next value is Aratir Jana Samsadi. Arati Jana Samsadi. Jana is people, and Samsadi means group of people, and Arati means it can say that not raveling, in constantly be with a group of people. So what does it mean? It's not about staying alone at home and not doing anything and isolating yourself. But what it means is that generally, if you see, when people get together, right, a group of people, what do? They talk. Obviously, they talk to connect to each other. But what kind of things they talk about?
The weather.
Right? They everywhere. I think everywhere they basically talk about the weather. Then they take out their frustration of when will the sun come, and last 3 days has been all very cold, and it's been windy and rainy, and oh my God. And the other person says, yeah, that the other day I slipped, So what happens is there is so much of this, so weather, right? Or so one person comes and tells you, oh, I'm having a problem with this relationship. Then the other person will say, oh, I have the same problem with some other relationship. And then everything will become so big and so heavy. So what happens is either we talk, so sometimes we don't even know, we don't even remember what we talked. Suppose I ask you, what did you talk to somebody during lunchtime yesterday? Just yesterday.
I know.
You, huh? You know?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So that means it is conscious. Because most of the time, what happens is when we are with group of people, we are just killing time. And not only we are killing time and talking about things which are insignificant or increasing our frustration, because you complain about something and 5 other people also complain about the same thing, and then all of a sudden that complaint becomes like a mountain. You feel that you have offloaded, but you have actually reinforced what you think. So this is why there is a very nice, when there are a group of people, so there are certain patterns. And in addition to talking about things like this, people spend a lot of time gossiping, talking about somebody else and their lives. And what is very interesting is that it comes under the facade of caring. Oh, you know what, this person has cancer, oh, she's suffering and she's doing like this. And so it seems as though you are caring and you are concerned. But many times it comes under what you take some satisfaction, where it's very unconscious. You take some satisfaction in seeing somebody suffering. Oh, they broke up. Oh, poor thing. Oh, her husband was so unfaithful, and, all of this. And what happens is that somehow it doesn't, you don't show that you are deriving pleasure, but it creates a certain, I don't know why there is so much need to talk about people, and not only talk about people in a good way, but always their problems. And in their absence. So this is some kind of a release that we get, some kind of satisfaction that we get, by criticizing others, or by seeing the limitations of others, or seeing them unhappy. It comes under the garb of caring for them, but in fact there is no care. So we need to, you need to ask yourself that if my source of pleasure is somebody's pain, am I a mature human being? So, as much as possible, right? People, I think I told you one story, and that suppose you see somebody, and who's so I have a friend whose son is like he's a compulsive liar. So what happens is, from young age, I think maybe her and her husband's relationship was not very good, so he was a little disturbed, but now he behaves in a way that he keeps lying. So one day her son went to school, and she had given him some food to give to his teacher, because my friend met the teacher in one social gathering, and the teacher said, I love this food. So my friend, she prepared it for the teacher and sent it through her son. Now, when the son came back, she asked him, did you give the food to the teacher? And he said, yeah, I gave the food to the teacher. And 2 or 3 days passed, and the teacher did not call back to thank her. So she was wondering whether she liked it or not. And she called the teacher, and the teacher said, no, I didn't receive any food. So what happens is, now all the friends that he has, they all also see this pattern in him, and all of them say, oh, he's a liar, he's a liar, he's a liar, because he does it with them also. What kind of society are we creating? Are we creating a supportive society? Are we trying to understand what makes people who they are? Or we just look at the behavior and we condemn? And now this person, how does he protect himself? So he has created this wall, and he does it more and more and more. And he doesn't care. It's his way of rebelling. Yeah.
I was just thinking, you said only rebelling, but it can go into a survival mechanism.
So good. Can you talk about it a little? It is very interesting. So she's a rebellion. So what does it mean? Can you, if you feel like sharing?
No, it's just that lying and also cheating and very many things, they can be established quite early as a kind of survival mechanisms, or they get away with it because very many children, they will try something. And also if they get away with it and it's covered over, they will figure out, oh, this is working. And then they continue. And in West also, we all know that it's quite many people that are, parents that are separating from each other.
Yes.
And if they cannot cooperate, very often the children can get very good in manipulating their parents up against each other or to their own benefits and things like that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. See, these are early, and it's all coming from pain. But suppose somebody is watching this person, and we all sit and we gossip about her behavior. What are we adding? Tell me. Are we adding anything to well-being? Then we complain, oh, the world is such a bad place, and they should do this, and they should do this, and they should do this. But what about us? Really, this is so important that anytime anybody tells me something shocking, I don't say, oh my God, how can that be? I understand. Make them feel that they are not weird, that they are not abnormal. And if perhaps we were in that situation, perhaps we would have also turned out like that. Then what happens is this whole tendency, this gossiping, looking down on others, putting others down, it's an addiction. And we have to pull ourselves out of that. Because any person who is behaving a little bit off track is carrying a lot of pain and a lot of confusion and a lot of anger, and so if you understand that, then there is no need to further condemn the person. So aratir jana samsadi means it's not to avoid a group of people, but when you are with a group of people, be mindful about what are the topics. What are you talking about? Right? There is so much nice things to talk. There is so good. Each person you meet has some hidden talent, some skill, some glory. Instead of trying to bring that out and let that surface, it's all about putting things down. But then what happens is the person who is so used to putting things down, the universe also gives you feedback. And what is that feedback? Then you also feel down. So everybody's down. You put others down, you feel down. Who's going to be up? Instead of putting things down, we have to learn to think in a way, even when we are in a group, pull things up. Generate good ideas. Generate nice things, good examples. Ask people about their talents, their skill. I tell you, look into their eyes and take some interest in their life. They will be thrilled to share with you all their beauty. So the beauties are all. She is telling me she was in the Harry Potter. I mean, imagine Harry Potter. She did animation.
Yes.
What talent! It's extraordinary. But how many people asked what she's doing? You spend 10 days with her, or she's a computer engineer. And she was a psychologist. How many people asked, what are you doing? How many people took interest in anybody else's life? We are in our own world of whatever. And wasting, I take interest in people. And that's what keeps me engaged, deeply engaged in life. And if you really ask me the truth, that's what makes me good Vedanta teacher, because instead of judging and negating, I take interest in people. And definitely I learn from people. And I try to find something which inspires me in anybody that I meet. And I always invariably find some beauty. So, pay attention to what, when you are with a group, what do you do? And, even when I do retreats where people come, and initially what happens is some people know each other and they are friends. So they tend to just stay with them, and then the other people they tend to stay. I said, this is an opportunity for you to meet many people, go out and, interact with others. Don't stay in your little cocoon, that comfort zone, and just isolate yourself. That relationship with life, right, is very, very important. So in in Vedanta, they talk about when group of people get together, what kind of conversations they have, right? So there are 4 categories. So, one is called Jalpa, Vitanda, Vada, and Samvada. When a group of people get together, and these are the 4 categories of conversations. Ludwig is a Jyotish. Now, I mean, incredible how many talents. Okay, Jalpa is what we call just wasting time, not knowing at all what you're talking about, not conscious, just killing time. One thing leads to the other, just whatever, just gassing, right? Not being conscious at all, and including gossiping. Gossip and conversations of no consequence, killing time. The second conversation is Vitanda, and Vitanda means, suppose now you feel as though, okay, now we should stay away from frivolous conversations, let's do something meaningful, and let's talk about something, right? The world order, the ecology, right? Or religion, or philosophy, or politics, or economics. It sounds intellectual, right? Sounds okay, now you're talking about something significant and not just passing time, right? But even in those conversations, your attitude can be one-upmanship. So what does it mean? You have decided that this is better. A left government or a right government or whatever, you have decided. And the other person has also decided the opposite. Now, each one of you are conversing with each other to convince the other. So while you say whatever you think very emphatically, with full heart, and when you have an opportunity to listen to somebody else's standpoint, you are not interested only. Your mind is working already on how to reply to this, how to counter this. So that means there is really no conversation. You are not learning anything. You keep your ideas and you make them, you try to impose your ideas on others, and the other person does the same. Each one will disagree with other. Whatever you say, they'll find something counter. So it sounds like a very intellectual thing, but what did you actually learn? You retained your ideas, and the other person retained their ideas, and the only thing that happened is they get angry with you, and you got angry with them. So this tendency that we have, and a lot of people who think that they are intellectually superior, they have this tendency. Always, when you listen to somebody, always try to find faults and negate if they don't match your ideas. Don't listen with some kind of an openness and say, yeah, perhaps, there is some truth to this idea also. So my father, at a very young age, what he used to do is, if we were very emphatic about one idea, he will always ask us questions. But why not this? And why not this? He will not say that this is wrong thinking. Stop thinking like this. But he will develop our thinking by saying, yeah, you're telling me this, but this is a possibility. And it's a possibility. He's not telling me this is right. Then I have to think. It's up to me whether to think about that or not, and then to answer his question, but why not that? And why not that? So what it means is, really it makes your thinking balanced. You have thought through different things, and your opinions are all balanced and not completely, you're not getting carried away with your ideas. This kind of a mind is a very, very important mind. This is what we call an analytical mind. An analytical mind in the sense that, they are able to see many different standpoints and they are not just carrying one opinion. And then they can they said, okay, these are all the possibilities and I do prefer this. There is no problem with that. You can take a stand, but not just one set of ideas and everything else you are negating. So there are some conversations and many conversations, I was just talking to Otto before the class, and they was talking about something which is not what I want to talk about. But what he was saying is, they were telling me, but they never asked me what I wanted to do. So they think that they know it all, right? And then they can figure things out, what is good for you, and they think that they are doing you a favor. Nobody asks what you want. All these kind of problems happen when, people converse with each other. All these prejudices show up. So we have to be mindful of that. So what is Jalpa? When you talk to somebody, even if you differ in opinion, right, it's okay. You can differ. But don't start the conversation and continue with the conversation with this attitude of one-upmanship. I know it all, and anything that you're going to say, I'm just going to dismiss and prove my point. You'll never learn anything. So this is Jalpa. What is Vada? Vada gets to be healthy. What is Vada? Two people, equals, are talking about things and they are expressing freely what they think, but they are also engaged and they are also receiving inputs from the other. And if that other person is saying something more profound, they are willing to revise and change also.
It's about recognition.
Huh?
It's about recognition. You recognize.
Yeah, you recognize.
What the other side.
Absolutely.
Instead of arguing.
Excellent.
Uh-huh.
Right? Instead of just arguing and dismissing, you recognize what the person is saying. Sometimes perhaps the person wants to knows a little more, and you can learn a little bit more and revise your own opinion. Right? That willing to reshuffle and not be stuck with your ideas. It's very important, even in an equal conversation. Then you'll find it interesting and entertaining and also a learning experience. So this is called Vada, where you express, you let others express, you recognize what they are saying, you exchange, and both feel nourished, and perhaps both increase their understanding of a given thing. Now, the final thing is Samvada. And what is Samvada? It is in a group, a conversation not between equals. One person is an expert and the other person wants to learn. So that's why in Bhagavad Gita, at the end of every chapter, it says Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. What does it mean? It's a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Are they equal? No. They are not equal. Lord Krishna knows and Arjuna wants to know. So what does it mean? All of us, no matter how much we have learned, we have to seek further refinement. At no point in time, suppose you say, I know it all. It's not true. Right? After 30 years, 35 years, when we ourselves were teachers, when we were listening to Swami Dayananda, we were listening with equal interest. And let's see how he's presenting this. Not like, oh, I've heard this 25 times before. So what happens that you're constantly, maybe, and if you listen with an open mind, every time you catch something which can help you, which can shift little. Even little shifts can be profound shifts. So what does it mean? When you are with an expert of any given subject matter that you are interested, make use of that time with that person. It's not easy to find. This lunchtime we were talking about, in any field, whether it's an Ayurvedic doctor or an astrologer or a Vedanta teacher, it's very hard to find a good person or a good, really somebody who knows. And take advantage of that. So, this is Samvada. You're willing to learn and constantly improve, right? Your understanding, your and reshuffling at times. It's wonderful. Okay, so here what Aratir Janasamsadi, it doesn't mean avoid people, avoid a group of people, but make sure what it means is most of your conversations are not just Jalpa and Vitanda. Just meaningless talks, or even intellectual talks which are just one-upmanship. You don't learn anything. So this is Aratir Janasamsadi. Is it clear, this value?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the next value is Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam and Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. These are two related values, and the values are the following. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. Oh. What it means is, Nityatva means always keeping in touch with what? Knowledge. And what knowledge? Adhyatma, of self. So what does it mean? Constantly keeping in touch with self-knowledge. And what is self-knowledge? Vedanta is one which gives you self-knowledge. Means it makes you see yourself in its true light and not through your own prejudices, right, or limitations. Now, as we have seen that the self is the most important entity for us, yourself. That's why in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad it is mentioned, Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. What does it mean? So, look at this teaching. It says, anything that you like in this world, anything that you love in this world, is not for that object's sake, it is for you. So, what does it mean? Then it gives an example that you like your spouse not for the spouse's sake. You like the spouse because she or he pleases you. You like the children not for their sake, but you like children because they please you. So ultimately, we are all seeking our own well-being. This is the truth. No matter what, right? Then do you say, if all of us are ultimately interested in our well-being, can we make the statement that we are all selfish? Can we say that?
No.
A little bit, yes, but not always. Why can't you say that?
Because you're also including the other.
The mature person also includes other people in their own wellness. So what it means is, now look at this. If I'm helping somebody, and if I'm telling myself that by helping somebody, I am getting depleted. I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my effort, I'm wasting my resources. Then, how long will you help the person if you are getting depleted?
No.
Not for long, because you have interest for self-preservation. So you will not do it. But suppose you tell yourself that by helping other, perhaps I'm going to help myself. I'm going to increase my welfare, my well-being. Then when will you stop? No, then you won't stop. So what it means is, here we are not talking about, please, your growth is not self-sacrifice. If it is self-sacrifice, it is inconvenient and you will stop and you will be resentful. I know so many, I don't know, maybe Radhika, I don't know what, but I meet a lot of students and they, this is one thing that they, I don't know from where this education comes, even among quite well-off people and educated people. There is a very deep conditioning that if you are a good human being, you have to only take care of others. And you are not important. You always have to let go. You always have to, so now there are a lot of women who want to be good human beings. So they have families, and in India it's still a very solid family structure. So you have family, you have extended family, you have cousins, you have a lot of people around you. And sometimes at the age of 40, these women come to me and they are extremely unhappy. Why? Because they say that I have looked after everyone and I have done so much for everyone, but nobody actually pays attention to me. So I'm neglected all the time. So what does it mean? You have looked after others and you have been nice to others, and others have appreciated you in their own, because it's convenient. When you're doing things for me, it's good for me. I like you. Why wouldn't I like you? But they feel unhappy. They feel not recognized, not respected, taken for granted. So any goodness that you are trying to do by forgetting yourself is not, in the long run, is not going to work. So what we do need to do is exactly include others. Include others in your well-being. So you have to create win-win situations. Win-win situations means you are happy and you also derive happiness from making others happy. Then you are an evolved human being. So that means any goodness that comes out from you, it comes from strength, not from weakness. So then you feel fulfilled, and this is why what is the shift that Vedanta brings in you? That if it is an unhappy person dealing with life, dealing with the world, to derive happiness, what happens? You always are frustrated because the unhappy person, basically you are an unhappy person. And world doesn't always do what you want it to do, so you become unhappy. But if a happy person, a fulfilled person, a content person, a satisfied person, happy doesn't mean every time you have to be he. No. A relatively satisfied human being. If that person transacts with the world, then what? It is the fullness which is coming out. So this is where I want to bring what Julie asked me in the morning, and she said, why is Swamiji saying that love is the only emotion? That's a profound statement. And nobody makes that statement. Every statement that Swamiji made was not run-of-the-mill statement, thoughtful statement, discerning statement. He had thought about things, and the sentences are coming from there. So you need to think about things before you can understand what he is saying. So, what does it mean that love is the only emotion? In fact, if you look at your mind, how many times love is the emotion and how many times other emotions are there? Tell me. Tell me honestly. Unless you're like in love with somebody, then for a while only love emotion is there, right?
It's not much love.
It doesn't last for too long, right? Doesn't last for too long. But generally, when you think about your mind, just your own mind, how many times it is a loving, love-related thoughts, and how many times there are thoughts which are not emotions, which are not loving emotions. It seems loving emotions are a minority. It seems like that. But why then is he saying that love is the only emotion? Because all of us, we all love to be loved. This is one thing that we are searching for, love. And we feel the best when we are loving towards the other. When you lovingly do something for your child, you don't feel it's some effort. You don't feel being exploited. It just flows out of you. So that means, in fact, all of us, the most basic emotion on which the whole universe operates is love. Because, look at this, we all seek love. And when we receive love, we feel the most safe, most secure, and most happy. And not only that, but when we give love, also we feel very good. If it is real love. So, Radhika was saying that, somebody who prepares the food for you, right? And just mechanically prepares the food for you. And somebody at home prepares the food for you because they want to nourish you. there is a difference. If you're subtle, there is a difference. Because why? In that food, there is love. And we are all sensitive to it. That's why in India especially, right, there is a saying, how we all love our mom's cooking. Why? Because she cooked with a lot of love. Wanted to feed you, nourish you, for your well-being. So, that is one thing which moves us the most deeply and most profoundly. Now, then what about all the other emotions? So, all the other emotions are offshoot of that love. When the love that you wanted, you did not get it, anger comes. When the love that you expected, right? Sometimes somebody cheated on you, violated you, sadness comes. Do you understand? Everything actually stems from love. So that means all of us have been, in some way or the other, living with the feeling of lack of love. And all of us need it. All of us. Yeah.
You might come to this. I know you might come to this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But, well, my experience and also what I talk about deeper
Yes.
would be that it is expression, an energetic
Can
expression.
you speak
from
up a little bit?
It's an energetic expression of the creation energy in the universe that is expressed through us as love.
Love.
So it's the another layer that goes in. So the only place we really can get that absolutely unconditional love that many of us would like to have, it is direct from the contact with the divine through the bhakti. And then it goes out to be a part and express itself in all kind of way, and also the wrong ways, if you can call it, as you say, when it's not met in the right way.
Yeah. So what happens is that love is the one thing that we all seek the most, and we feel the happiest when we, when we are loving towards others. Our actions come from love. But what is the reality? That all of us, right? Why is it? So this is the basic emotion. But everything else, first let me explain this and then I'll come to you. What you're saying is right, absolutely right. Right? So, but what happens is that love need is not satisfied, then you are angry. That need is not satisfied or somebody violated you, pain. So what it means is they are all offshoots of the same emotion. First emotion is love. And even those emotions are all based on love. What kind of love? Unmet love, unfulfilled love.
It confuses me a bit when you talk about love as an emotion, because, yeah, for me an emotion is something that's only for a period of time, so it's limited.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, and when I talk about Vedanta, I often use love as a synonym for what we are.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is very interesting is, absolutely. So, what Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam, there is a self-love, right? And we need to, ultimately what Vedanta has to do is make you that loving person. Loving yourself and loving everybody else. Why? Because all of us, why? Because Vedanta says all that is here is one. What does it mean? Suppose your tongue, right, was beaten by your teeth. Will you start hating teeth? No, you will not start hating teeth even though your tongue is in pain. Because you understand everything as what? Part of this whole. So, yes, you will take care of your tongue. It doesn't mean that you are hurt and it doesn't mean all of us are one. You will take care of that tongue, you will heal it, you will put some ointment, but you will not kick the teeth. So ultimately, you cannot say, I understand Vedanta and then there is no love. It's impossible. Because self-love is something which is so deep in us. But now, as a result of Vedanta, yourself has not remained you, the individual. It has become everything. If you really understand that I am, it's very easy to say I'm the whole, I'm everything and all. Hey, you don't, but if you really understood that, then what happens is that really there cannot be any hatred. There cannot be any intolerance. There cannot be any labels. It's not possible. That doesn't mean you don't take care, right? When the teeth, your tongue is beaten by teeth, it doesn't mean, oh, everything is one, so I'll leave it as it is. I will take care of my tongue, but not with hatred for the teeth. I'll protect my tongue, but not with hatred for others. That has to go. If you really, that shows how much you have integrated Vedanta. What is your relationship with everybody else? What is your relationship with the world? What is your relationship with yourself? If it is all based on love, basic, then Vedanta is working for you.
Yeah, so I have one
Now,
thing to
there
say.
is one more thing that I first want to elaborate on what you are saying. Then you can say further things, right? So what she said is also something very important. And she said that, all of us are basically seeking love and feeling frustrated. That's why what happens is, in our mental life, love is very small and everything else, pain, anger, everything else is coexisting. Now, how at a relative level I make myself more loving before I get to this final self, which is everything? Generally more loving and caring than, this person who is in pain and angry or criticizing and whatever. The way you can do it, as she said, is through bhakti. Before you get to know your true self, you need bhakti. Why? Because you need to settle account with the world. All your pain, all your frustrations, all your anger, all of this, if you try to deal with it one by one, by the time, it's like Pandora's box. By the time you deal with one, the other emerges. It's endless. When will you finish working with it all? There is only one way, and what? Re-understand the whole world as nothing but Ishvara. The infallible laws of Ishvara, causes and effects, causes and effects, causes and effects, which is all, working in perfect harmony. So, then what happens is, even if you do things, you don't do it to fix the world, you do it as your contribution to the order of Ishvara. You have to do what you have to do. But what does it mean? So, Swamiji used to say one thing which is interesting. Suppose you are in a play, right? And everybody has their own lines in the play. Now, suppose your co-star forgot some lines. what will you do? If you wait for him to finish his lines because this is what he's supposed to do, what will happen? The whole drama will end. Because you say, no, but I'm only supposed to say after she says it. And she forgot. Suppose. So who is a good player? Who is a good actor? Even if you forgot, I can compensate. Nobody knows and everything continues as it is. Nobody notices. What does it mean? If you are a mature person, the focus is not on what others are not doing right, but what focus is on what can I do. And then even if others are not doing right, my actions will perhaps compensate for somebody else's doing wrong. So the whole focus is on my actions and the quality of my contribution. And that can only come when you actually begin to see the whole universe as nothing but manifestation of Ishvara. In that, you will ultimately, in bhakti, you will heal yourself. You will find that love. Total. So, Swamiji used to say, you can never surprise Ishvara. Why? Because everything that happens is within Ishvara's order. There is nothing which happens outside Ishvara's order. So in this so-called disharmony, which is appearing on the surface, if you can see underlying order, then you are okay. So many disharmonies on surface. Ecological problems, economic problems, political problems, home problems, family problems, all problems only on surface. But all these problems, right, are what? Because of certain underlying what? That if you as an individual or others as an individual or as community or as nations, if they make wrong choices, the outcome is what we see. That means it is in order. Until we change, until we all do, we can't have much control over what others do. But we can do what we have to do. So when you see everything in order, what happens is you do your part without complaining. So even within your emotional disorder, you have to begin to see the order. Then you don't fight it. This is what I was saying, that prayers, somebody wanted to know more about prayers. Even my anger, right, that I have is because of so many things that happen to me. It's in order, time. So, yeah, the prayers have started.
Yeah.
So I will elaborate a little bit more on that. This Adhyatma Jnanam is the most healing thing that you can do for yourself. Investing in yourself. Investing in knowledge of yourself, larger knowledge of yourself. So, we will take a little bit more this and then the next and the last value tomorrow. I don't think I need 3 classes tomorrow.
Hopefully.
No, I don't think so. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So do you have something else to say? You can say tomorrow. I hope you are going to be there tomorrow.
Thanks.